Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome into Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday, as we have a lot of things to get into today, as not only going to have a What to Watch presented by Bryant Technologies, but we'll have your Alumni Hall question of the day, a little over-under. Actually, no, it should be buy or sell today, presented by BetSaracen. We'll have some fun with that, as well as get into an SEC update, talk some football, talk some basketball, and get into your chats, as well as your phone calls if you want in on the conversation. It's very simple to do, 478-344-6623. But fellas, how we feeling? It's a game day eve, I guess, because of 24 hours from now, we'll be watching Razorback basketball in the SEC tournament. But how we feeling today?
I'd rather be to tomorrow than here right now, but I'm good. I'm hanging in there. I'm counting down the hours, man. I'm ready for this thing to officially start and for Arkansas to beat South Carolina. That way, nobody can say anything. That's what I'm looking forward to. Everybody has to shut up if they win that game, and I think they're going to do it.
Yeah, I feel good. I'm excited for tomorrow as well. I promised I would bring good vibes every day to the show this week, and that is not going to be a broken promise today. I still have good vibes, but I'm like Curtis. I am waiting for that game tomorrow. I'm excited for that. Some of my favorite days on the show are when there's like a weird argument among the fan base about semantics over what someone said, and it's being misinterpreted and taken out of context and misconstrued 7 different ways, and we get to be the voice of reason. Those are always my favorite days on the show. And so when John Calipari made his comments about the SEC tournament, I knew it was going to cause a tidal wave, and it did. And so I can't wait to talk about this.
Oh, yeah. We're going to have all that to break down on, because it was something. I don't know if you guys took it this way. Well, I'll play the clip, so that way there's context here in a second. But, I feel like I'm pretty plugged in for the most part, as far as what fan base of Arkansas or even other fan bases would get upset by or think it's something controversial. But I remember when I first saw this clip about Cal talking about the meaningless SEC tournament or whatever, this was one of the first times where I'm like, moved on. Like, I didn't even think into like, ooh, people aren't going to like this, or ooh, this is going to cause some concern, or ooh, controversy. It was just something I thought was a pretty normal, evident thing. And the outrage, if you want to call it that, from not only some in Arkansas's fan base, but a lot in other fan bases. I was legitimately shocked by it, because I was like, do people really love and care that much about the SEC basketball tournament? Is it really something to where, no, you have to take it seriously? You have to go in there and you have to go out and win. That should be a goal. That should be something that goes on your resume. It should be something you get raises for. Like, I was just really surprised to see how many people took issue with this. Were you guys as surprised as I was?
Nope. I'm not surprised at anybody taking issue with anything John Calipari says, because there's so much vitriol towards that dude. It's unreal. There's some folks out there that hate John Calipari so much that they just cannot create an objective thought when discussing anything relevant to him or the teams that he coaches. It's nuts, man. And I know there's some people out there that he had bad relationships or whatever with. I know Jeff Goodman and Matt Jones and those dudes, whatever, but my goodness, man, it seems over the top to me. I mean, we heard college football coaches talking down the entire stretch of the season about like, it's almost like it's a bad thing if we make it to our conference title game, but we don't even want to make it. It's better if we don't even go. So they're diminishing that because they didn't want to hurt their college football playoff chances if they got into the conference title game and lost or whatever. And everybody's like, oh, wow, interesting. Oh, wow, we haven't really thought about that. That's certainly something to ponder. Good thought, coach. You know what I mean? SEC baseball. Like, we know Dave doesn't care about the SEC baseball tournament. None of those coaches do. Why? Because they're saving it, right? You don't want to go out there and play 5 games in 4 days or something stupid and wear your team out and then go to the actual tournament. Oh yeah, no, we get it, man. Let's just get out of Hoover healthy, O2 and barbecue. It's all good. John Calipari opens his mouth. On 3, we got to create a graphic. Somebody quick, delete archaic from the last one you made about him and insert absurd in big bold letters. And let's put it out there. That man can't say nothing without people being on his neck. It doesn't even matter what it is. They're going to be on his neck regardless.
I'm sorry, real quick before you respond, Andrew. Curtis, Was that real? I thought someone photoshopped that. That was actually what they tweeted out originally.
I
Was
was on threes.
archaic?
Yes, it's real.
It was-
Archaic
they
was
tweeted out-
because of his offense. Absurd is because of his takes on the SEC tournament. It's
Yeah,
insane, man.
There's no
Well,
narrative.
they tweeted out with the
obviously.
Jay Williams, because Jay Williams had a comment about it.
Yeah.
And so I think they were like, because Jay Williams called it absurd what Cal said, which again, like, it's crazy because one, we said the same thing yesterday. We were even talking about it. We were like, would we even really want Arkansas to make it to Saturday or Sunday? Like, there's a sweet spot in there where you win, you secure your spot, you play well. Same with the SEC baseball tournament, like you mentioned. Like, this is not a new narrative. This is something we all talk about every single year. Several coaches, several players, several media members talk about this. And so it's one of those situations where you can force yourself to be mad and try and hear what you want to hear.
Mhm.
It really wasn't that controversial what he said at all. And I see a lot of people that are doing it and they're like, wait, so he's saying he's going to lose on purpose? He's throwing the game? And I'm like, if you heard that from that sentence, you deserve to not have a right to vote. Like, you are a dumb person who should not be able to get dressed and do stuff yourself. Like, you need help. It's crazy that people took it that far. And then they were like, so he's just saying he doesn't care about winning. Clearly this shows Cal. He doesn't take things as serious. I'm just like, dude, shut up. Y'all are trying so hard to make it like some weird narrative. Arkansas is going to go. They're going to try and win. They would certainly like to win tomorrow. No doubt about it. Secure that spot. But is it really that big of a surprise that a team with 7 guys in their rotation probably doesn't want to play 5 games in 5 days? I don't think anybody really does. And of course, it's not like Arkansas is going to be pissed if they win, but it's really not controversial at all. If you would just actually listen to what he's saying and listen to what the smart people like us are saying, it's really not that complicated. Everybody needs to just chill out.
Well, I'll tell you what. Well, for context, for everybody, so that way you can hear it yourself, here's the clip that everyone is talking about in the full quote of John Calipari talking about the SEC tournament.
I don't care about the conference tournament, which is why we won it so many times, because I could care less. The tournament that matters is the NCAA tournament. Now, you play that tournament to get the best seed you can get. And if you're going to get to the finals, win. Or don't go to the finals and lose because you're exhausted and you got to play on Tuesday or Wednesday. So I'm like, let's play well and try to improve our seed.
I just hear that. And I even listened to it, guys, 3 to 4 times in a row to make sure I wasn't missing something. That seems like the most reasonable and honest answer that anybody could ever give. And I have felt like this even before John Calipari said it. I got into an argument with, I know it's crazy, I got into an argument with an Auburn fan years ago when they were bragging about their SEC tournament banner that they got hanging up. I'm like, sweet. What'd you do in the NCAA tournament? Well, you don't have one of them. You didn't win any championships. Sweet. I'd rather go to the Elite 8 than win an SEC tournament title. I honestly would. And I just could not believe so many people had issue with this. One of the funniest things I saw was our boy Matt Jones over there. He's like, yeah, tell this to the people that paid money to go there to Nashville. I'm like, if there are Razorback fans that are going and paying a lot of money to go to Nashville and they're expecting a win and they expect that they have to win a championship. If they don't win the championship, that was a waste of money. Then that's on them. That's their problem. But I just, and like you said, Curtis, completely agree. It's Cal, so that's why it becomes controversial. But I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I feel like I'm the one that's looking ridiculous, where I'm like, who actually cares that much about the SEC basketball tournament? And real quick before I move on, or we get to more, but guys, I've always felt like the basketball tournament side of things, of all the SEC tournaments of all the sports, is the most meaningless. Why? Because you play everybody in the tournament, in the conference, in the regular season. It's one of the few sports where you play everyone. So I just don't understand the outrage from this.
You play everyone anyway, and if unless the only path for you to get into the NCAA tournament is to win the whole thing, it actually doesn't matter after the first couple days, because the seeding decisions by the selection committee are 95% done by Friday. So, Wednesday matters more than anything else. After that, it's just wearing your team out unless you have to win that thing to get a bid, which Arkansas is not in that position. So if you just you take the audio away and you just write down the quote and you don't attach a name to it, and anybody reads it, they can understand the context of exactly what's said. But because it was John Calipari, it has to be this huge firestorm of a reaction. That's all it is.
I hate to keep making this about baseball, but not even the SEC baseball tournament. But like, okay, say we're in last April or May, and Hagen Smith's pitching against Florida at Baum Walker, and he's gone through 6 innings and he's thrown 92 pitches. And Dave says, you know what? I'm not going to bring him out for the 7th inning. He's thrown 92. He's had a good outing. Ultimately, our goal is to win a national title. We want him ready for the postseason. So I'm going to go to my bullpen here. Should everyone in the crowd be like, wow, I paid money for this ticket. I want you to live and die with this game. Don't worry about the championship. That's not how it works. Dave taking out Hagen is not a sign that he's not trying to win this game, or it's a sign that everyone who paid for their ticket is getting slapped in the face. But again, if you want to frame it however you want and you want to get pissed off about everything, you can do it. But I agree. Like, this is a complete non-story. I frankly, I think it's actually refreshing how open and honest Cal is. I wish more coaches were like that, rather than giving us no, I'm telling you, this game right here against Wofford, that's the most important game of my life. I love this game. This is my favorite game of the year. Like, I'd rather you just tell me how you really feel. And by the way, in the clip, Cal says, we want to play well. We want to play well. We want to play loose. And for everyone pissing and moaning about Cal not caring about the SEC tournament, he sure has won that sucker a good amount of times for someone who doesn't care about it. And so that's another part of the thing, is he's saying like, hey, that's why we win it so often, because we go in there and play loose. So if you really do care all of a sudden about the SEC tournament, Cal's method clearly works, because he wins it every 3rd year.
I just, again, I agree. I laughed so hard at this and seeing the reactions from people, and the graphic that you were referring to, guys, of this one from On 3, Jay Williams blast Calipari over the SEC tournament take. He's like, I think it's absurd. And then you see the graphic, absurd. Everybody's approach to win a single game they play, right? And you're also talking about, you can make a case, Seth, and it doesn't matter. Like, it's just, I don't understand at all, because as like, Arkansas's won the SEC basketball tournament one time in 2000 with Joe Johnson and all of that. The only reason I know that is because that was a time where Arkansas had to basically win the SEC tournament to get to the NCAA tournament, and it's the only one that they've ever won. But I could not tell you guys, and I was there for some of them. If you said those years that Arkansas went to the Elite Eight and the Sweet 16 with Muss and all that, I honestly couldn't even recall all those years and all those teams that they played in the SEC tournament and where they finished. I could probably get to it, but it's not like an instant recall. But the NCAA tournament, I can recall it immediately. I can know where I was, who did what, because it's what matters. It's what people should care about. And so it's the only thing I've really felt like in the SEC as far as tournament titles or whatever has been the SEC football championship, because for a while that dictated if you went to the Sugar Bowl or if you went to the BCS title game or if you went to the playoff or whatever. But the rest of it, I just felt like, unless you're a team that's on the bubble and, you're the only way you can get in the tournament is if you go on a run, kind of like what Georgia did in 2008, that famous story. That's it. And that's another point. You know what's one of the most memorable SEC tournaments of all time? It was the one time that there was a team that couldn't get into the tournament otherwise, and they went on a run and they won it. That's the only one that anyone ever remembers of being epic and crazy and great. It's craziness. I love it, though, that it really just shows people's ignorance and over dramatics of how something as simple and as easygoing as this becomes such a major point of emphasis to people.
And people would just twist the words into whatever they wanted to, because there's a lot of discourse in the chat even right now about, well, is he trying to lose? They're not trying to win. That's crazy. Of course they're trying to win. They're going to go out there and try to win. All the man is saying is that the most important thing to him is the NCAA tournament, and having the team as healthy and ready to roll and ready to rock as possible, get the best seed possible for that. For all you SEC homers out there, that's cool. I get it. March Madness is more important. It just is. So I don't know what to tell you. That doesn't mean he's going to, roll out, Lawson Blake, Aiden Kelly, Kareem Watkins, Cash Chavis, and Melo Sanchez as his starting 5 in Nashville, because he doesn't care and he's trying to tank it and purposely lose. No, it doesn't mean that at all. Of course, they're going to go out there. They're going to play hard. They're going to be prepared. They're going to try to win, but he's not putting crazy amounts of pressure on that, because he does have bigger goals in mind. It's not controversial. It's not crazy. And it's not much different than what anybody else thinks at this point. In fact, I've heard a bunch of national analysts over the last week that were like, probably be best for Auburn if they maybe won their first game and lost their next one in the SEC tournament. Probably best case for them. But that doesn't apply for everyone because John Calipari said it. So let's freak out.
Someone on this very program yesterday made a really, really strong, solid point, like just well-rounded, clear thinking point that, Arkansas has been pretty much every game they played for the past 6 weeks has been do or die, been a lot of stress, a lot of pressure on it. Like Arkansas really felt like they needed to win. And anybody who's been in athletics at all knows that kind of wears you down. That takes its toll. That's not something that you don't win and lose those games for free. They kind of take something out of you. And so I think it's actually very important for Arkansas to go into this tournament and not necessarily feel that pressure because, especially for a team that fatigues down the stretch in some games, I think it would be nice for them to play loose, play free, all those things that Cal said. And so, and by the way, this is not revisionist history. This is not me just backing up Cal. Like I said this on the show yesterday. I think it actually will be very beneficial for this Arkansas team if they could maybe get that mental exhaustion to not seep in and they can just play basketball, play well. I think it would help Arkansas if they won a game, 2 games, and look good doing it, maybe had that good chemistry. But I think it will definitely be a good thing for this Razorback team to not have that constant pressure so that by the time you're in March, you're not completely exhausted. Again, I can't believe we even have to dumb this down and explain this to the stupidest people on the planet. And by the way, Razorback fans, I know it's not you, but we got about half the chat worth of BBN in here that's pissing and moaning. We're really talking to them, and we're talking to the Jay Williams of the world who are just making stuff up for clicks.
Yeah, and I mean that's what it's become. I would love to just if anybody can name me the top 10 or the last 10 SEC tournament champions right now, without looking it up, I would love to know if anybody can actually do that. But here's the thing too, and I know we'll get to your chats, folks. We'll get to your comments, but it's also where if you're Cal and the situation was a little bit different, say if you had a Duthero all season and you had Boogie Fland all season and everyone was healthy and you were playing really good basketball right now and you were a higher seed where you weren't playing on Wednesday, you were playing on Thursday or Friday, maybe, if you were in that position, then I just have a hard time believing he would come out and say, or he may feel the same way, but he wouldn't come out and be like, hey, this doesn't matter. We got to do this. But given the circumstance, there is nobody and there is nothing anyone can say to me that could convince me that Arkansas playing 5 games in 5 days over the next 5 days is going to help them in the NCAA tournament. There's just no argument that can be made for that. So if there's no argument, then there's no reason to be outraged by him saying that and him wanting to do that because it's the smart thing to do.
No, let's just see him go out there and do it. Let's see him go out there and do that and then get to the NCAA tournament a few days later and have jello legs like they did at South Carolina, get their ass beat in the round of 64. But is anybody going to be looking back going, oh, but remember what they did in Nashville last week?
Oh.
Great season. No, they're going to be piling on the man for losing in the first round of the NCAA tournament. The goalposts will shift again. It always does. It's just the way it works, man. It's crazy. 7 players that they have right now. They're going to try to win, but at what cost? I mean, you really have to consider that. We look at everything in such of a vacuum, but it's really a big picture consideration to make here. These guys look terrible playing on 2 days rest. What are they going to look like, playing back to back games and then having to fly across the country a couple of days later and then go out there and play? Probably not great. They're probably not going to be fresh. They're probably not going to be at their best. It's something to consider, and that's all the man's talking about. And again, good Lord, he didn't say he doesn't want to win. He didn't say that they're not going to try. He didn't say he's going out there trying to lose. What the hell are we talking about? It's unreal, man.
It really is crazy.
It's crazy.
I don't know why this became such a thing, but another point in this is that is it even necessarily a good thing? Because Cal even mentioned improving your seeding, and we talked about this yesterday. Are we sure that being an 8 seed is better than being a 10 seed or an 11 seed? I'm not 100% sure it is. So it's really not even a thing where the more you win in the SEC tournament, the more it helps you in terms of seeding. I don't know if it does help your draw. If you're if you're on that 3-4 seed line, yeah, you'd probably rather be a 1 seed. But if you're like a 10, 11 seed, your draw is actually better than if you were an 8 seed where you have to play a 1 seed in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, it's just madness. By the way, real quick, I know we'll get to the chat, but always think back. There's other examples of it too, but I think back to that. Tennessee won the SEC tournament title in 2022. They won that one. They lost in the second round of the NCAA tournament. Do you think those Tennessee fans remember more about them winning that SEC tournament, or do you think they remember how upset they were that they lost in the second round? It's probably because they lost in the second round. That's what people remember, not the SEC tournament. So We'll get to your chats, folks. And also, I can't believe this is on me for not mentioning it. Brandon Marcelo is going to be joining us of CBS Sports. He's going to be joining us on 115 today. We'll talk actually some college basketball with him because he did cover the Razorback game this past weekend. But we'll talk about some football stuff with him too and getting ready for spring ball. But let's get to your chat. Our guy, Quinn, appreciate the super chat. He says, yeah, you guys are way off on this one. Quinn, we love you. We appreciate it. But like you're kind of, this is the thing. I brought up an Auburn fan. It's like, it just doesn't matter, dude. It just does not matter. The SEC tournament does not matter.
Who won the SEC tournament last year?
I was just about to say, Quinn, you of all people should know.
Winning
an
about,
SEC
bro?
title doesn't do shit for you, brother. Does not do shit. Wouldn't you have rather go to the Final Four last year rather than getting bounced in the second round? Are you hanging that banner and being like, thank God we won the SEC tournament? There's no way in hell you are.
You're feeling better about that Yale loss in the round of 64 because you won the SEC tournament? You shouldn't be.
Nah.
No. In fact, if they ever if they have the banner for, which I know they do somewhere, but I could not tell you where the banner for the 2000 SEC tournament championship is in Bud Walton Arena. I could not even point it out.
Joe Johnson.
I have never looked at that being like, so much pride in that. Like, no, jeez, no one cares.
And also, John, it's funny that you mentioned that because that is the literal one situation. If Arkansas were in South Carolina's shoes or LSU's shoes, yeah, go out there. Yeah. Your life literally does end if you don't win this tournament. So yeah, go out there and go balls to the wall. That's a very different situation. That's the one time Arkansas has won it is when they needed to win it. But yeah, all the great success. Hell, Arkansas's one national title. None of that matters in terms of the SEC tournament.
Yeah, he also says, to follow that up, he says, coming from an Auburn fan perspective, the SEC conference tournament does matter because it's a chance of winning hardware and hanging a banner. But hey, that's just my perspective. Which, okay, here's the thing, Quinn. I'm not saying you're like wrong in that. Like, I think that there is some value. It's just a matter of what you look at and what you value. To me, an SEC tournament banner and trophy, I don't care about that. Like, I don't brag about it. When I bring up Arkansas basketball history, I'm never like the 1994 national championship, the 1990 Final Four, and that 2000 SEC tournament championship. Like, that never even comes into people's minds. It's about something greater than that and bigger than that. But I get it. If that's what you value, that's fine. But to get out, it's more about people being outraged at Cal for saying it. That's what this is more about.
So weirdly enough, someone who agrees with Quinn here in the chat, Landon Bray, is actually accidentally dunking on himself because he says, you all are talking like it's one or the other. Now do all the title teams. Listen, we're not saying that, like, in a nutshell, winning an SEC title or an SEC conference is bad. We're saying that the NCAA tournament is more important. And that's what Cal's saying. He's not saying, hey, we're going to go in here and not try and win. They're going to try and win, but they're not going to win at the cost of playing 5 games in 5 days and really going balls to the wall to where it exhausts them going into March. And we've seen teams make that mistake a ton. And by the way, there's a lot more examples of teams that win the conference tournament and don't do anything in the tournament than there are teams that won both. I think it's only happened like twice in the history of the SEC tournament.
Yeah.
Like, literally, it never happens, actually.
We've had like 15 people quote Herm Edwards to us. You play to win the game. He didn't say you're not going to.
Right.
Like, I don't...
I know. That's again, it's
Are
like
we
people
putting words in his mouth.
At no point has Cal or us or anyone said Arkansas is not going to try and win. We're just saying that winning is not really that big of a deal this particular week.
Yeah. It's like, you against that exhibition game against Kansas. Do you think Arkansas went into that game not wanting to win? It's like, yeah, they wanted to win. They tried to win. They wanted to play to win. But it wasn't like, oh, that they won. Oh, man. National champ. Maybe I did say national championship at the time, but it was more a tongue in cheek. Like, the point is, to me, the SEC tournament is just almost like a transitional phase of an exhibition between the regular season and the postseason that matters. It's just like a kind of like a nice little warm up to it, and that's how I view it. A few more chats here too. Our guy Dre says, appreciate super chat. Says SEC championship doesn't matter. He also says, I'll take 1 to 2 wins in March versus winning an SEC title. 100%. I'd rather get this. If you told me Sweet 16 and lose to South Carolina tomorrow, or SEC tournament championship and lose in the first round, I am taking the Sweet 16 every day, twice on Sunday. No question.
I would too. And I'm not even saying that an SEC championship doesn't matter. It'd be cool. I would love to have one. That'd be awesome. If they win that thing and cut down the nets, that'd be great. It certainly would. But yeah, like at what expense or whatever. And I just, people up in arms that John Calipari is not going, we're not even thinking about the NCAA tournament. No, we're in Nashville. we're in it to win. Save that for Mark Pope, man. He's going to do all that stuff. And that's your coach now for all the BBN that's in here freaking out about it. And that's fine. That's cool. Go ahead and do that. But I'm not going to get that frustrated and up in arms about the guy saying, listen, the biggest thing about the SEC tournament is to improve your NCAA tournament seeding. And he's right. Like, if you're going to get to the finals, and it's weird because everybody's saying, oh, he's trying to go in there and lose or whatever. What did he say? If you get to the finals, win, because otherwise you might have wasted some time getting to that point and wearing yourselves out and not having anything to show for it. Wow.
Guys, how many times do y'all think an SEC team since 2000 has won the SEC tournament and the national title?
Well, I don't know. Did you do 2 seconds of research like Landon told you to?
2. It's happened twice.
Okay.
And you know who did it once? John Calipari with Anthony Davis. He's done it one of the 2 times. The other time was 2007 Florida with Joakim Noah and all that. Since 2000, twice it's happened where the SEC tournament champion also won the national title.
Okay, I'm honestly asking. I thought for some reason that the Anthony Davis team lost in the SEC title game to Vanderbilt. Was that the year before or year after maybe that I'm thinking of?
Let me see this. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I'm looking at the regular season champion. Damn.
Okay.
So yeah, no, it was they lost to Vanderbilt. You're right. They lost to Vanderbilt in 2012.
Okay.
So see, 2007 Florida looks like the only team that's done it.
Yeah. And guess who they beat that year, Andrew? The Arkansas Razorbacks in the SEC title game. So fun fact. The research is off again. Shut up.
There's such a long list of evidence of teams winning the SEC championship and going on to have great success in the postseason. I mean, it's happened once in the last 30 years. I mean,
yeah. Jeez, man. Sorry. Go pull that one back up, Curtis. My bad.
Well, I was gonna, John. He said the point everyone is missing for this particular team. It isn't smart to go all out in Nashville, and he's not talking to us. He's talking to the chat.
Right.
It's a moot point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's if people aren't going to understand it, they're not going to understand
well,
it.
And I see some people being like, well, there's other conferences of the SEC. That doesn't have anything to do with this Arkansas team, which happens to play in the SEC tournament. There's other teams that don't have 7-man rotations. Doesn't apply to this Arkansas team. There's other teams who need to win in the conference tournament to make the tournament. Doesn't apply to this Arkansas team. There's some teams that need to get some things going. Doesn't apply to this Arkansas team. We cover Arkansas. We cover John Calipari. That's why we're talking about it through this lens.
Yep. And another point, too. I know I keep referencing it, but the years that Arkansas went to 3 straight Sweet 16s and 2 Elite 8s, Arkansas did not win the SEC title in the tournament. They didn't even play in the tournament championship any of those 3 years. But guess who was the last team standing in all 3 years from the SEC in the NCAA tournament? The Arkansas Razorbacks every single time. Appreciate the super chats, Quinn. And he says, well, I think of everything, but maybe it's because Auburn basketball was a dump before Bruce, so we want to win everything we can. And that's a fair point. Like, that's a fair point to me of, like, if you were, Georgia or whatever, or even if you're like Texas A&M and Missouri or, whoever who's never won an SEC tournament title because you're newer to the conference, Texas, Oklahoma, whatever, I could kind of understand it. But again, we're just talking about it from what Cal said. That's what the main frame that people have to put it in. It's like, we're talking about what Cal said and people's reaction to it. Not that, it's that way for every program. We're talking about this year for Arkansas, for his team, where it's at. That's what it is.
And yeah, like, just like you have your own perspective on things from your program, we have on ours. And like you just mentioned with these Eric Musselman teams that, they might not finish that high in the SEC, and they certainly weren't winning SEC conference tournament titles, and we didn't care because they were going to second weekends. So that's kind of the standard that's been set for us. And we were happy with that. I wouldn't trade any of that tournament success for, I don't know, getting to the finals in Nashville or whatever. So
yeah, dude. Like, you don't think I didn't see Devo Davis crying after the fact that they almost won the SEC tournament championship.
But and here's the other thing, and I do, like, I appreciate the banter with BBN and everything. We've been doing this for a long time, and it's been mostly good natured and everything. But stop. I listened to Matt Jones at KSR, and one of the things that he was saying leading up to the Arkansas game was, stop telling Kentucky fans how to feel. Stop telling Kentucky fans how to act. Will you guys stop telling Arkansas fans how to feel and how to act and how they should react to everything that John Calipari says? He's not your problem anymore. He's not. Nope. You know what I mean? Like, it's so how can we on one hand do the thing where it's like, don't ever tell a Kentucky fan how to feel or act, and that's all y'all do, bro. That's all y'all do to us.
Yep.
Don't do that.
Yep.
You want to
Okay.
make fun of Cal, make fun of. Don't tell me how to feel about what he says.
Yeah,
I'm not
no.
listening to you.
Well, I do want to give, of course, another shout out to our guy Quinn because appreciate this. Appreciate that for Curtis and his wife. Very, very kind of you. Actually, I don't know why I'm thanking you, Curtis. You can do that. But I'm just
Yeah, no, I mean,
but appreciate you, Quinn, as always, man.
no, thank you, Quinn. You're the man. And I've been enjoying some back and forth with Quinn in the DMs about Auburn and his almost scuffles with Alabama fans and everything. It's good. It's good that we've been able to continue some friendship since we left there. But no, really appreciate you, man. And this is a good opportunity for me to thank everyone, like the outpouring of support and everything, and just the people who took time out of their day to comment on a post or whatever and congratulate us and offer well wishes. Not lost on us. We really appreciate it. I stayed up until I just passed out with my phone in my hand, trying to get back to everybody individually and be like, hey, thanks, really appreciate it. But this is an opportunity to do like a big picture thank you for all that. We really do appreciate it. We're kind of overwhelmed at the support, man. It's really, really cool.
Y'all ready? I'm about to say something nice to our buddy Quinn. Hey, Quinn, when Auburn makes the Final Four this year, you will not remember that Alabama game last week. I can just assure you with 1,000% certainty. You won't even remember because Mark Sears is going to go 3 for 17 in the first round when Alabama loses, and you'll be able to poke and fun, make fun of him. It's going to be a lot more fun when your team wins and goes on a great run in March, which, by the way, Auburn is about to do. Let's make no mistake about this. You will look back and you'll say, you know what? Those guys were right. Nothing matters before the NCAA tournament.
Good point. Good point to make. Appreciate also Gary Dre. Once again, he says, what's funny is they hate Cal for not winning more titles, then mad that he isn't concerned about winning non-title tourneys.
No, that's a good point.
I mean,
Dre.
honestly,
How you going to tell the man that's won more than any coach in the SEC how much he should care about winning? It's like, you know the Michael Jordan clip? Well, that's you because you never won anything. Yeah. Cal, you don't get to tell Cal how to approach stuff. The dude who's won more SEC tournaments than any of these coaches, the coach who has an NCAA tournament win on his or a title in his chamber. Yeah, you don't get to tell Cal what it means to win at a high level. Like that dude knows how to win.
Yeah, he's pretty good at it from last I checked. Also, our guy Dre, appreciate it. Dre says, according to ESPN, Hogs have to win the SEC and Final Four to make it to next year's March Madness. True.
I was just gonna say, I'm so glad that he referenced ESPN here because I've been teeing off on those guys and it's fun. But it's just interesting to me that there's such a huge difference between whoever does their analytics stuff and their actual bracketologists. Like, do you guys not talk to each other at all? What's going on here? Because they still do the thing where it's like, okay, Arkansas has a 58% chance to make the field because of all these metrics that I'm going to list that are incorrect because I didn't take the time to do my own research. And then you have Lenardi, who's, got Arkansas pretty safely in the field. And I just wanted to point out real quick that he put out his update or whatever today. And under bubble, right? He's just got like some bullet points for certain things. And under bubble, he says, realistically, there are no more than 3 vulnerable spots: Indiana, Xavier, and Ohio State. And that's going into conference tournament week. That number would shrink with each bid stealer, which that makes sense. Like, if that stuff happened, that's fine. But like right now, he doesn't even have Arkansas considered as vulnerable to get popped. And so how can that be the case? But then your own analytics department, like the story that's right below yours on the hopper there at ESPN.com is like, I don't know. They better do some damage in Nashville. It's crazy.
Like you mentioned, the communication is weird where I'm like, listen, I understand that it's a computer versus a real human being, but I'm like, how do you have a real human being on staff who is your bracketologist guy and you're putting graphics out on your network that disagree with that guy? Like, I think that's crazy that they do that. They don't double cross these things. Right. But I don't know. I really don't know what goes into it. I think that's another thing that's added to the intensity of this conversation is we've got all these morons in the national media who think Arkansas needs 2 wins to make the NCAA tournament, which is also an important factor in this conversation. If Arkansas had gone 0-2 this week, we would not be singing this tune about, oh, they don't need to, who cares? Who cares about winning the SEC tournament? And so I wonder if that's also seeping into some of the cesspool that is this conversation.
Yep. Absolutely. I tell you what, we'll get to more of your chats, folks. I know there's a lot of them to get to, and we appreciate it. But I want to remind everybody that we're going to do What to Watch, presented by our friends over at Bryant Technologies, where they're dedicated to delivering high-quality network infrastructure and security camera solutions. In fact, I had somebody reach out to me yesterday, said that they had used Bryant Technologies, and they were awesome.
Nice.
They were absolutely awesome in helping them out and making sure that their business was good to go when it comes to everything, networking, cabling, security cameras. They do it all, and they have structured cabling as well as digital signage. A lot of people don't realize that, but when you open your business and you go outside and it's like, hey, how does people know where we're at or what we're doing? Well, they can help you out with the digital signage that makes it look really cool, really modern, and stick out a whole lot. And they have you covered, not only the entire state of Arkansas, but also all the bordering states surrounding the state of Arkansas. So have Bryant Technologies help you out with all your network and security needs. You can give them a call today at 870-883-0330. That's 870-883-0330. Or you can check out their website at bryantstechnologies.com with that S in between. bryantstechnologies.com. It's Bryant Technologies, quality work guaranteed. All right, a few more of your chats, folks, because we appreciate the support in the chats and also the super chats too, as always. But Quinn, I was over here just overloading us. Come on now, Quinn. We appreciate it, though. He says, I'm at the airport heading to Nashville for the SEC tourney. Just SEC tourney. Looking forward to watching all the games. I will say that will be one thing that will be fascinating. Maybe not Wednesday, maybe not even Thursday, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you could have some really great games potentially for SEC tournament play. So that may be worth watching it.
There is not a single game in the SEC tournament that doesn't feature at least one team projected to go into the NCAA tournament. That's crazy. That's crazy to think about. You're not going to get that anywhere else. So that's going to be really cool, especially when your team doesn't play until Friday. You can get in there and still see some really good basketball. Quinn, word of advice, have air tags for your luggage.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the best word of advice we can give you for this trip. Just make sure you have air tags. Yep. And you should be fine. No problems at all. So, and safe travels, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have fun. It's funny. The worst game so far is the one that has two NCAA tournament teams in Mississippi State and Missouri. That's the worst game.
That is a gross game. Very gross game.
It's true, but also funny as well. Let's see a few other super chats here. Again, we have to get all of this, but Garrett, our guy Garrett, says this just proves all the moving the goalpost stuff is just national media stirring up stuff because the dislike of Cal. Jay comments goes hand in hand with those media guys saying the Hogs need one more, and that's the thing. I know, Curse, you've talked a lot about it, but that's the one thing where I make jokes about it, but it seems Arkansas loses a bad loss or has a bad loss, and they're still fine. They're in a tournament, whatever. But as soon as they get a quality win, they're like, I don't know. I've still got to do more. They're literally trying to box them in to where they become more interesting with every game, no matter what. It's like they can't just be in because that doesn't make them as interesting to them. So they have to do whatever they can to just put them in this little spot. It's like, no, you can't go one way or the other because that's less interesting. We got to keep you on the bubble and on the balance no matter what happens.
Yeah, no, they're definitely going to continue to do that. I have a lot of examples I could get into of like the hypocrisy of the way Arkansas's resume gets scrutinized and others get propped up. It's just it's wild, man. But
it should really invigorate Razorback fans to notice this, and I know it does. I know Razorback fans definitely keep tabs on what people are saying, but the fact that anytime Arkansas loses, all these guys rush to their computers, rush to their mics, and start putting out content on it. And then when Arkansas wins, it's just crickets, and it's, oh, well, moving the goalposts. Actually, they got to win more games or whatever. I think that should really excite Razorback fans, especially going into this time of year where the lights are going to be the brightest. And I think Cal really embraces the us against the world mentality. Arkansas, Arkansas was very polarizing under Eric Musselman, make no mistake about it. But it's just crazy how much more polarizing they are now. And I think that should excite Hog fans where you get to be the team that ruins all these nerds' days every day in March.
I mean, there's nothing more satisfying than ruining a nerd's day. I can tell you that. So just you can ruin a nerd's day. It's a good day. A few super chats here too. Again, really appreciate everybody for the super chats today. WKRP says the regular season is over. Thanks for taking the bullet for BBN. It's a new season. Love the coverage. You're right 90% of the time. Congrats to Curtis and Michelle.
I'll take it. Yeah. Thank you, by the way. I'll accept 90%. That might be generous, but I appreciate that.
We will gladly take the bullet of having a much more relevant head coach and having people pay attention to what we're doing. It's definitely definitely an easy bullet to take, I would say.
we are willing,
all of it. It's a great gig for all of us.
We're willing to be the sacrificial lambs for such a thing.
We have you weirdos watching us. I mean, it's great stuff. It's a great gig all around. I'll sign up to take that bullet every day.
It feels good to me, man. I'm going to be stuck on the 90% for a long time, because it could have been like, you guys are right occasionally, or you're right half the time. 90%.
90% is a good number.
Good hit rate. I'll take it.
I would take 90% because Lord knows it's not true for me. So,
but we're not a lock. Like Arkansas's got a 90% chance to make the NCAA tournament. We're not going to call them a lock. So that's where we're at here.
Shout out to Quinn, where he says, Andrew, don't jinx us, trying to put that bad juju on us. He also says, I do carry on. So good.
Yeah. And Andrew is the bad juju guy.
He is
for Auburn.
That's not what's happening here. We've been talking about Auburn positively all year. Like literally going back to like November, December. There was a point where like people like back when our show was just Arkansas fans, they were getting mad at us for talking about Auburn so much, because we were like, man, Auburn's the team to beat this year. Like they're the team we fear. They're the team we don't want to play. They're the team that everybody's going to be looking for in the SEC. I think Auburn has actually played it out pretty well, where they were obviously so good early on. They took their lumps a little bit, had Janai Broom out with injury or whatever, and now they lose to Alabama the other day, and so everyone's like, oh man, there's something wrong with Auburn. I think they've tapered off the exact right amount. I think they are really about to peak in March, which is what you want to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's still, I still hold the belief, and I'm not doing this totally to troll, maybe a little bit, but I've said as the season went on, if Auburn does not win the national championship this year, they're never going to win it. Like this is their time. They are the best team, and I know it's tough, but you have every single thing you need to win it. You got to win it, and if you don't, I just don't see it happening. Shout out to Brian Nix. Just, I don't know if there was another chat in there somewhere.
There was, afterwards. Yeah. He followed up with a congrats, Curtis. So
okay.
Thank you very much for that. We appreciate it, man.
Okay, perfect. As well as our guy Nick Lee says, congratulations, Curtis and Michelle.
That means a lot coming from Scott Fountain's biggest fan. I just appreciate that. It's awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah. The thing is, I'm not going to say thank you anymore, because it's like it's not my secret. Like it's not me and Andrew's. It's like it's just Curtis and Michelle. It's theirs. I thought this was funny from Jakota though. He did say, honestly, shout out to Quinn for listening. I couldn't listen to another team's show like he does, and that's what Curtis, we talked about it, and I know Andrew, you talked about it too. It's like that's why I enjoy talking with Quinn and having him in here, because takes a lot. Because man, I get irrationally angry hearing some of the Razorback content around here, much less, going to another team. So yeah, shout out to him. He's a good dude. We appreciate his support. It's
good to get a non-Arkansas or Kentucky perspective sometimes,
Yes, it is.
It's good.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Somewhere out there. A few other chats here real quick too, because I do want to play this clip. But St. Luigi, I like this one. It says, is it true? Is Curtis sleeping with his producer? It's like, congratulations to Michelle and Curtis. I wish nothing but the best for the three of you. So
I love that. Thank you. It only makes me uncomfortable, because every time we're on the Palace post-game show, I'm always like, yeah, producer John's in the background. That's not happening. Nope. I can confirm that that's not happening.
Nope. None of that. None of those rumors need to get started, spread, or anything like that. Which is funny. I actually had somebody yesterday. I meant to send this to y'all in the group text, but somebody yesterday was being like, hey man, I feel like you made Curtis uncomfortable with saying congrats on the sex. And I'm like, I promise you, I feel like he wasn't uncomfortable by that, if anything. So
no,
I don't know if you should have said that. I'm like, shut up. Like, leave me alone. Like he's fine. It's a good thing.
It was part of the math to get to where we are today. So
at least I hope so. Jeez.
It's an undeniable fact. Or at least I hope. I mean, we have confirmed that Michelle's pregnant, but I mean, we haven't really done the math yet. I mean, we'll worry about that on down the line.
Okay. Well, how about this from our guy Quinn again? He says, I know Andrew, but guaranteeing we'll make a Final Four. Please just say you think, but I hope y'all are right. I'll drop a $500 super chat if we do. Deal. If y'all make the Final Four, $500.
Quinn, I would love to be one day wrong about something, but like, that's just not really how I operate. Like, I'm just telling you what is going to happen. Take it or leave it. You don't have to take your Final Four appearance, but it is happening.
90% of the time, he's right. So,
yeah, it's true. That is the number that gets thrown around.
I think our three collective percentage is 90% of the time. I don't know if we're each 90%.
True. Yes. I think that's it's almost like a golf scramble. You just take all of our best shots together, and we equal 90%. Yeah, that's how it works. All right. I know that last night was another of the Razor's Edge on Vice, which I know a lot of people are having issues watching it. I wish I could help you. I really do. And the people who are making the doc, I reached out to them. They're like, we just produced it. Like, so I'm apologizing. I know there's people that can't exactly watch it, but I thought last night's episode may have been my favorite one because you got to see, I'm not going to spoil it, but like for those of you who
go ahead. We're not going to be able to watch it.
That's true. Yeah, I guess that's true. But it was really cool seeing Cal. He went and traveled and met with Malik Thomas and sat down with them and hearing their conversation and just the way he handles kids. I mean, you're talking about a 17-year-old kid. It's just, how he talks with them and the confidence that they had. So that was really cool. And he talked about how that I guess Malik Thomas hit a floater in the at the buzzer to win the state championship or the championship that he was in at some point. And Cal's like, I get credit for that. And then Malik like looks into the camera and starts telling this story about how Cal told him when he first watched him. He's like, yeah, you got a floater? He's like, no, I'm working. He's like, do a floater. And in practice, he just kind of did floater. He's like, work on that. Do that. He's like, because that's going to be a shot that you can really be successful in. And then later that year, he did a floater to win the title. So I was like,
let's go, man.
There he is, Cal. Yeah.
I did hear that he like low key brought up Nate Ament too, like without mentioning him by name, but was like, oh, there's one more guy we really want to get or something.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay.
It's good stuff.
Savvy to not say his name. I mean, because the NCAA would strike him down.
Yeah. No, I thought that was really interesting, and to see, some of the other interviews, like they sat down with Tom Izzo, like in a sit down with Tom Izzo talking about Cal, and John Rothstein was another person they sat down with. So I thought it was really good. If you haven't had a chance to see it, it mainly talked about the Vanderbilt game. We'll talk South Carolina game, cool, and the Vanderbilt game, which was a lot of fun. But I do want to play this clip because I thought this was a lot of fun. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry.
Hey, there's Curtis.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Curtis. I'm doing a solo shot.
Acting couch Curtis.
Yeah, but this was something funny after the Vanderbilt game. I just love the reaction from Big Z when Cal kind of calls him out. It's really funny.
Now, Nelly, you carried us today, and that's he walked over right away, 2 minutes into the game, and said, "They can't guard me." And I'm like, then we're going to you. Z, you're fine. Missed every shot again. Z made no.
Wait a minute. Just saying, 2 dribbles or this turnover. What the f did I do today?
All right, this was great, Jonas. I am so happy for you because you had to be tortured. All right.
Yeah, so that was it on that. I loved it, man.
I like that a lot. I like it a lot.
Z was that a game? Z, did he go like 2 for 6, 2 for 7 or something like that?
Yeah, it wasn't. He didn't I think it was something like that. Yeah, he made some shots. He didn't go 0 for 10.
I like that he's still talking his shit though.
I feel like he made his first 3 or something, and then that was kind of curtains after that.
Yeah,
but that's funny, man.
Yeah, I loved it. Also, shout out to Joy to the World, Kentucky fan, who is one of our actual favorite Kentucky fans. Appreciate the super chat. Says, we know what y'all been up to between ball games. Congrats, Curtis and Andrew.
Killing the time, man.
Also, did not say congrats, Curtis
and
Andrew.
Did not say Curtis and Andrew. Yeah.
Oh, did I say Curtis and Andrew? My bad.
You did. Yeah, you did.
My bad. Curtis and Michelle.
No mistake. This is not Curtis and I's child.
We're up to other things in between games. We break bread, not bed. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Here's hoping, man. I'd say I'm gonna start having misspoke so many quotes, and everyone's gonna just take it out of context. It's gonna be,
we could have a pretty good collage from
the
show.
Quinn, man, you're out of control. Appreciate you. He goes, I'm a sicko who goes to other teams' media channels and message boards to see their misery, but I love y'all and how y'all have helped me, like Arkansas fans, more. So
good, man.
That's our job.
Not half bad around here.
Quinn is the only person from another fan base that doesn't come in with like angry, combative energy.
Yeah.
Like he really is just here to talk ball and, enjoy the banter and all that. And we go back and forth a little bit, but like it seems like most of the people that come from other fan bases come with a directive in mind, and it's to piss people off and to stir the pot and cause fights. And you can tell Quinn is not here to do that.
No, he just loves ball. He just loves ball. We'll get to a few more of your chats here in a bit. Again, Brandon Marcelo is going to join us here in less than a half an hour. And he just put out this article, and I've been kind of looking at some of the quotes and everything where he talked about Cal and basketball, and Tyson had to sit down with him. So it'll be really fascinating to get his thoughts on those things in a bit. But let's go ahead and do your Alumni Hall question of the day presented by Alumni Hall. And all of you can, of course, go to insidearkansas.com/alumni hall and be able to shop online for all the greatest Razorback apparel. They have everything in stock, brand new for baseball season, the NCAA tournament coming up, especially now it's getting warmer outside, which it feels amazing. Get your gear with Alumni Hall. It's the ultimate Razorback shopping experience. If you use that promo code HOGSBY20 online, all caps, or if you go in store and say, hey, HOGSBY20 at 3417 North College Avenue, you'll get 20% off your purchase. It's Alumni Hall, the ultimate Razorback shopping experience. Guys, we can move quick through this because I know we've kind of beat it like a dead horse in talking about the SEC tournament, but I was just curious what people on the Twitters had to say about, is the SEC basketball tournament meaningless? The choices were yes, no, or only matters for bubble teams. And 41% of you say only matters for bubble teams. 39% of you say yes, it is meaningless. And 21% of you say no, it's not meaningless. So kind of all over the place there. But that's what people feel about the SEC basketball tournament. It only matters when you win. It's the only time it matters. So let's see a few more of your chats too, because some of them that aren't super chats. I love how BJ Young, former Razorback greats, in it. He's like, John Calipari's 35 years, one ring, just be a slow phone line. I did actually like that line. That was pretty funny. But he also said Cal always won the SEC tournament with 7 players. He never plays more than 7 players anywhere. I don't know if that's true.
I think that one, like I think about that one Kentucky team we talked about a couple of times. They had like a full 5-man rotation, 5-man and 5-man on the bench, and they would do the mass sub thing. I feel like 8 or 9 is probably fair.
Yeah, he probably had. I'm sure he had teams with super short rotations. Last year he had too many.
I mean, how many Arkansas teams since Mike Anderson left? How many Arkansas teams have had more than 7 or 8 guys in the rotation?
I mean, that Elite 8 team that beat Gonzaga had 6.
Yeah.
Like if they went to a 7th, it was like accidentally Kamani Johnson or something. It's like, we just got to get Jay Will a 2nd here. So,
yeah. I love the accidental Kamani Johnson. Like that should have been a shirt. It's like, oh no, things went bad. Accidental
happy
Kamani
birthday,
Johnson.
Kamani Johnson, yesterday.
Oh yeah. Well, happy birthday. One of my favorite Razorbacks to interview, nut dropping time. Still have that video on my phone, man. It was great.
Good man.
Let's see. Also, Trey says, a question for you guys. I saw the video the other day. It was a recap from Bud by someone else. Why can't this individual go live, but you guys can? What is needed for you guys to be able to go live?
I can answer that question honestly or diplomatically. Which would you prefer?
Let's go honestly. Yeah, let's do honestly.
Honestly, because the U of A does not credential Inside Arkansas the outlet.
Yeah.
So like my credential comes from doing work elsewhere. That's how I'm able to do it. And then if we were to go live and do the show from Bud Walton Arena, we would be promoting Inside Arkansas within the bowels of that building, and they don't want that.
There you have it.
Honestly.
And hopefully your question got answered, because that's the truth. Yeah.
It's just the truth.
Yep. Let's see. G Razorback says, or Grazerback maybe, but he says, guys, late to the show out here in the Pacific time zone and forgot about daylight savings times change. Any news on Thero and Boogie?
Okay, so let's see. Yesterday, Kenny Payne was asked about those guys. He didn't really have much to say other than Thero's still rehabbing and day by day, and they'll see what it looks like. And he hadn't heard anything on Boogie, which is interesting because I'm sure that he has. But whatever. They play coy with those questions. That's the way it is. We'll see. We'll learn a little bit more when the availability report comes out tonight about potential statuses for this week. It's never a coincidence when they take pictures of the guys getting on the plane and there's 3 photos and Adu's in one and Boogie's in the other. That being said, if based on everything I've heard, if I had to guess about this week, about the SEC tournament, I would not anticipate having either one of those guys. And maybe that changes. I don't know. But my understanding is that probably not for this week, but I don't think that the NCAA tournament is off the table. And I hope I'm wrong. Like I hope that they play, or maybe they're like emergency available or something this week. I don't know. But I'm not anticipating that. I'm certainly not ruling out next week though at March Madness.
Question for you, Curtis.
Yeah.
If Arkansas were to play a game on Friday, which I think would be against Auburn, right? Against our boy Quinn. Would you think there's any chance either of those guys would be listed as doubtful? Could we? That's my goal for the SEC tournament, to get a doubtful from one of those guys.
I mean, that's really what I'm hoping to see. You know what I mean? Just like tell us there's a chance kind of thing would be neat. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Well, I also got to apologize to you, Curtis, because anytime, if you've been having to address the Thero thing a lot from people, anytime someone's DM'd me or asked me, I always just say, go talk to Curtis. Because if he doesn't know, or if he gives an answer, I'm not going to give some sort of different answer of like, well, you know, Curtis doesn't really know what he's talking about. Let me tell you what the real truth is. Like, no, it's just like, so if you've been bombarded, it's probably a lot to do with me.
Well, what I'll say, like this coaching staff is very much on the same page about information that they're willing to leak out and what they're not. And so it's kind of a crapshoot, and like most sources become secondhand sources with stuff like this. I've heard a million different things on Thero. I have. I heard it was just a hyperextension and no big deal. And then I heard it was his back. And then I heard it was an MCL. Then it was a meniscus. And then it was no big deal and he'll be back. And then he got a knee scope and he'll be back in a couple weeks. And then I heard he was going to be available for the SEC tournament. And then a couple hours later, I was told that he wasn't. So I think a lot of it is just people getting a little nugget and running with it and going crazy with it without having like confirmed information. And I don't like being that guy. So what I'll answer is the truth. Like I really don't know. Like based on what I've heard recently, I'm not anticipating them having him this week. But I don't know. Like if the injury report came out and he wasn't even on it, I also wouldn't be surprised by that. That's just kind of how this group operates, man. They don't give you a whole lot.
Well, and to that point, Curtis, I know you just did a good job detailing that. Like HH says, I can tell Curtis knows more than he's letting on. Just tell us, bro. And like you said, you hear a bunch of different things. If you want Curtis to just throw a shot in the dark and just trust one of the 27 voices and just be like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about, that's what everyone else does.
Well, others have been doing that, and then they have to backtrack
the whole way along because they have all these people saying, hey, what's the update? What's the update? So then they hear one piece of information and just run with it. I mean, hell, not going to say any names. Someone in this very state, in this very beat, went on a limb and was like, hey, Adu Thero tore his meniscus out for the year. And all of you believed it. And now that guy's going to have to walk that back. And it's like, if you want Curtis to be that guy that just throws stuff out there for the hell of it, just to kind of like create a wave, that's never been what he's done. That's never been what we're about. And what we say on this show is most of the time just us really trying to make sense of what we hear, reading between the tea leaves of what they're saying. Anyone who right now can tell you for sure, and I say this all the time, anyone who looks you in the eye and says, I know for a fact what's going to happen with Adu Thero and what his injury is and when he's going to be back, they are lying through their teeth. Because I don't think Adu Thero or the team knows for sure when he's going to be back or how that's going to look.
Nope, not at all. I actually like this from Dre. Speaking of, he goes, getting a medical update from Kenny Payne is like trying to get your grandpa to remember his iPhone password. Like, yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to say anything in those. Like the questions are going to continue to be answered, and credit to the folks on the beat who have, just tried different and creative ways to try to get a little bit more information other than, is there any update on so and so? Like yesterday, it was, hey, is a dude traveling? Do you think he's going to be in uniform? Like just trying different ways to try to get something, and the answer is always the same. Like, working hard to get back day by day, or haven't seen him. Haven't heard, it's just kind of the way they operate, man, for sure. But I'm not going to lie to folks, and if I'm getting a bunch of conflicting information, I'm not just going to pick one and run with it. That's not how I operate. I'm not too proud of a guy to just say, yeah, I really don't know for sure.
Yeah. I wish more people would do that, would just like give an honest assessment of like, hey, this is a very up in the air thing. It really is a day-to-day thing that changes every day. And I know I say this a lot, but it's like when someone, like a dude literally might wake up tomorrow and fall out of his bed. And then all of a sudden his timeline's a little bit different. It's like there's just, you never really know. He might go out there and try and practice on, or I guess, I don't know, today, I guess they'll do a little bit of a shoot around in the arena. He might go out there and try to do something and not feel great. And then all of a sudden his timeline's different. Like these things happen all the time. Or
Nelly Davis falls out of a golf cart. Wasn't that what he did? Is something like that? In fact, he fell out of a golf cart and that's why he hurt himself.
Yeah.
Sure. Like, why not? So, Evan also asked, will you guys be traveling to the NCAA tournament, assuming we make it?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Curtis, for sure, no matter what. But it always just depends on where it's going to be, what it looks like, finances, all that stuff that go into it. But there will be representation from inside Arkansas at the NCAA tournament. No questions asked.
I'm telling you people right now, I'm not going by myself. I'm not letting them ship me off to Rhode Island by myself.
No, you're going to Rhode Island by yourself, and you're going to like it.
I'm doing it.
How are we going to get to Seattle though?
By boat.
I was saying it's gonna be. We're gonna have to just crawl up there.
We may find maybe they have trains still that we can take all the way up there. Get to see the Pacific Midwest that way. So, no, we're gonna figure it out. It's gonna be great though. It's gonna be awesome, and to be because it's been too long. I mean, 1 year without the NCAA tournament has been just way too long for that. All right, let's go ahead and do a little fun with the buy or sell side of things with BetSaracen, the number one sports betting app in the state of Arkansas. It's not even close, and you need to get in on it and start winning some big money with all the specials and all things for Arkansas. You can check them out by downloading the app on your iPhone or on your Android, or you can also go to BetSaracen.com. All right, let's go to a few buy or sell, dealing with Razorbacks, but also some other things too. How about this? Buy or sell that the winner of the SEC tournament will also be in the Final Four.
Buy. I'll buy that.
Okay.
Well, I got to see who wins the tournament first. I mean,
I feel like it's going to be one of those teams that gets a double buy.
Yeah.
Like in the league this year. So I'm just assuming it's going to be a top 4 seed, and 3 games, 3 days, whatever, and then you got a cakewalk against the 16. And yeah, I'll take that.
I hope Auburn wins the SEC tournament. So that way I'm in a win-win with Quinn, because either then they'll make the Final Four and then Quinn won't be mad because I jinxed it, or they won't make the Final Four and we can say, hey, well, Quinn, I mean, at least you got your SEC title win and you're all good there. I'll go buy as well for that same reason, though. I think that it's going to be one of those teams that doesn't have to play 5 games in 5 days.
I agree as far as the buying of it goes. Buy or sell that Jonas Adu will have 2 more double-doubles this postseason.
I'll sell it, but I do think that good Adu is here to stay. I just think there's going to be, like with Trevin playing the way that he is, and then also with I do think that Big Z is going to get going again here. Like I actually think that's going to happen tomorrow. Like I don't know if the crazy amounts of minutes are going to be there, but I think you're going to have highly productive Jonas Adu. But I'll sell the doubles.
I'm selling it for the same reason of I think Arkansas's other front court members. I mean, not even to mention if Adu Thero comes back, that would also probably cut into some of this. But I just think like Z's going to be good. Trevin's going to be good. They'll all 3 play well, but it might not be one guy going for 15 and 11.
He did have a double-double against South Carolina last time.
It's true.
He's rounded off a bunch of. I mean, he's had a lot of. He's been flirting with it pretty much every game here lately.
Yeah. That Vice documentary episode last night talking about South Carolina, I forgot that Adu took a 3 and they airballed it. Forgot in that game. They showed that.
One
I
of
was like,
several, man.
Oh gosh, yeah. And I think you heard Chuck on the call during that, like his thing. He's like, yeah, Adu's not made a 3 this year. It's just like he tried. All right, how about buy or sell? Razorback baseball sweeps Ole Miss and Oxford this weekend.
Sell. Ole Miss is good. I think that would be if Arkansas swept Ole Miss and Oxford this weekend, that would be pretty notable. To the point where I think it would make Arkansas. Arkansas would have a claim to being ranked number 1 in the country if they did that. Oh, I mean they could. They very well could, but I think Ole Miss. You don't really see road sweeps in the SEC too often. I think Ole Miss is good enough to steal one.
Yeah, I'll buy a series win and sell the sweep.
I'm ready for this. Arkansas drops game 1 and wins the next 2.
Ooh, there you go.
There, yeah. Hey, I'll take a series win, but no, they're sweeping this weekend. I'm buying it.
Baby.
Also, so apparently the ones that got suggested and recommended for our personal buy or sells has to do with Round Curtis and the announcement of his child. So it could get weird here in a second, but buy or sell that Curtis will name his child based off a suggestion made by a listener. I'm actually going to kind of buy it, where I think someone's going to suggest a name and they're going to name that kid, but it's not going to be because of that listener.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, if we just keep getting guesses, they'll cover every name. Here's what I think should happen. Curtis, if you see a name you like, don't pull it up. Don't acknowledge it. And then don't ever give that person credit. Like, just be like, oh, no, we just decided to name him Corliss or whatever, whatever it is. Don't bring it up, because then you can get away with it.
I've been trying to sell her on Corliss for the last 24 hours. She's not having it. So
you don't want to have the public track record of your kid being able to pull up this stream and be like, You really picked my name based off of Razorhog69 in the chat? Really?
Yeah, I love this from Michelle. She says, "I love you, but sell." Okay,
Ah,
well, there you go. Well, fair enough. How about this? This was one with Andrew. It says, "Buy or sell that Andrew will cry at his own wedding." I think he gets emotional, but I don't know if he does full on waterworks crying. But I think he starts quivering a little bit, like seeing his lovely bride start walking down the aisle, with the music playing. I think there's a little bit of that.
I think I'll buy that. He's a man that's comfortable in his own skin. He's not afraid to show a little emotion.
so I was just going to ask both of y'all, because I was just thinking about this. Have either of y'all seen me cry?
No.
Slightly. I've
Yeah.
seen a
When was I
little. I've
crying?
seen a little cry from you. Nothing crazy, but
What was the context? Was it Bob related or was it?
this is Bob related.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Bob
It was
got me.
subtle. It was- yeah.
I don't cry as much as like I haven't had stuff to cry about here lately, but like I'm a pretty decent, like I cry at an above average rate, I would say. My dad was, a pastor. He would cry every third sermon. Like he would just start talking and just kind of get choked up. And I remember as a kid being like, this dude, what like get it together. But the older I get, the more sentimental I get. Like if I'm watching the right movie, if I'm hearing the right speech, I cry over sports more than I cry over anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think that stuff like that you never really know in those contexts because you never really know what's going to happen. But I mean, there's no shame in it or anything like that. It's just something that happens.
I'll tell you one thing right now. If Arkansas wins the College World Series, it's going to be a freaking waterwork post game reaction. Like I'm going to need both of y'all on there to like just pick me up whenever I'm struggling because
we got you.
Hell, I've cried at the thought of it. I was like sitting there thinking about it one day and like kind of worked myself up. I will undoubtedly cry at that, and I will cry at my wedding almost certainly. I cried at my buddy's wedding a few months ago.
I cried after the Tennessee win in football.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah,
I'm
you cried over a 19-14 win.
Yeah.
In October.
Jeez.
The first time I saw John cry was at Hinkle when they beat Texas Tech to get to the Sweet 16. The first time in forever.
I was suffocating in that stupid mask I had to wear. Like I was dying. But yeah, that was the first time ever. And this one for me, which I feel really uncomfortable about this, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. Buy or sell that John will have a kid before he even gets officially married.
Wow. A wedlock John? Wow.
I mean, I know it's not going to happen, but
I think John will get married and then have a child.
I think
he will not live in sin.
Thank you.
He does not strike me as one that would contribute to the bastardization of a new life. So
yeah, he's not going to have a son with the last name Snow.
No.
Yeah.
Well, and also like when this one was submitted, I was like, I'm 36 years old. I feel like if I was going to do it, it probably would have already happened at this point. But I had to ask it anyways. So yeah. So those for the one you're watching, the one you suggested, I told you it was going to be dumb. So, but I asked it anyways for the sake of it. So yeah, that'll do it for buy or sell. We'll have Brandon Marcelo join us here in a few minutes. Let's do a few more chats here before we get to that. Our guy Hayden Ulmer says Curtis Wilkerson II, nicknamed Deuce, if a boy, of course.
It's too close to poo.
Yeah.
Got to be careful about that.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny is I actually knew and went to elementary school with a kid named CW. That's what he went by, CW, because his name was like Calvin Wilson Carl or something like that. But so I know I saw your initials, like, oh yeah, CW, kind of like that, maybe. I don't know.
Until I moved to Fayetteville, I was C-Dub or Wilk.
Man, you have so many names.
Yeah.
It's like, and none of them are actually your first name, your real name.
Danny West was always big on the like just AE, C-Dub, TB. Like I don't think he ever spelled out my name or your name, Curtis. Every time I heard him reference you, it was C-Dub.
Yeah, JN doesn't really roll off the tongue very nicely.
Hey, do you like this one? Eva Wilkerson.
Yeah, I think that one could play. I really do.
Pretty good. Dub. He could be Dub. That's good stuff.
There was a time last spring, like we were in the office every day, and so we would be listening to you recording the bombastic and everything, and I'd be at home at night. I'd just be like, Viva Aloy, Viva Aloy, Viva Aloy. Yeah. Michelle's like, what are you referencing? What are you talking about? I'm like, sorry, Andrew's got it. He's got it stuck in my head. So,
let's see. Also, Quinn, says John is like me and he's never getting married. Yeah, thanks, Quinn.
No, come on. John's getting married.
Yeah. I'm always. I've been
2026 is the year you're going to meet her, John.
so not this year, but next year when I'm a meter.
Next year you're meeting her. 2027 is when that whole process will really start.
I don't know if I want to wait until I'm almost 40. If it's the one, then it's one of those things. It's just going to happen. It's going to be pretty quickly.
I mean, at this point, no sense in rushing at this point, brother. I mean, you waited this. You might as well just kind of, take your time.
Yeah, but I mean, think about the extra income that we could have, like another disposable income in the household. I mean, you got to think of this in a business decision.
Yeah.
In fact, Michelle's over here saying no juniors. I don't think. We'll see. Okay.
All right.
No juniors. All right. That's
Yes,
fine.
ma'am.
Yeah. I'm about to say she's like cut off 75% of all the things that could have been the kid's name. So
no CJ Wilk.
The fun police in here, huh?
yeah, seriously. Man, killer. Let's see. Evan was asking if Andrew cried after the Oklahoma State loss. I don't think he did. I think I was angry. And
I remember getting accused of that, though. Y'all remember all the comments were like, Andrew's crying over there. No, I mean, listen, if there's going to be a sport I'm going to cry over, it damn sure ain't going to be Arkansas football.
Week 2.
like no disrespect. No, but I was very annoyed after that game.
Yeah, I think there was many reasons why we were all very annoyed, but yes, that was pretty.
And
rough.
we got shamed for being annoyed. Y'all remember that? People were like, "Guys, relax. That's the best team in the country."
Yeah, playoff team.
We were vindicated.
Yeah, sheesh. See, James says, "Do the Hogs make the tournament if they lose again to South Carolina?"
Yeah, well, I was just going to point back to that, the thing from Lenardi, and again, like he's not. I know he's not the highest ranked guy at the Matrix or whatever, but he's really, really good at identifying the field. Like he might get the seedings mixed up or the matchups or whatever, but he's usually pretty spot on about nailing who gets in. And as of this morning, in his opinion, there are 3 teams on the bubble that are vulnerable to, getting passed up or whatever. And Arkansas ain't one of them. So,
well, and also
to answer your question, yes, according to him, they'd be fine.
Pretty much the only case for Arkansas being in trouble would be the ESPN analytics that decide that they might be. And Joe Lenardi works for ESPN, and even he's like, they're bullshit.
Yeah, it would really be like, it would need to be like last year where they had, I think, 5 bid stealers that came through. Like Arkansas would have to lose to South Carolina, and then you'd have to have just this inordinate amount of bid stealing situations, which 2 big ones are already not a thing because Drake won the Missouri Valley, and you got St. Mary's and Gonzaga in the finals of theirs. So that's good. From that standpoint, I think that they're probably going to be okay. But just don't lose to South Carolina tomorrow. Yeah. Just don't do it. Don't do it again. We don't have to worry about it.
And I've seen a few people. I saw someone in the Discord was saying this yesterday. They were like, I kind of want Arkansas to lose to South Carolina just to prove to everyone who was freaking out that they could lose. There's definitely a part of me that wants that to happen just so I could be like, because I rattled off like 6 tweets being like, arguing with every single national guy that was like, no, Arkansas's in trouble. They need to win 3. I'm like, they don't. Trust me.
I want it to happen just that way we can all go to Dayton together.
Oh.
Yeah, that would. I mean, listen, we've talked about it a lot. We've done a good job speaking Dayton into existence. I really, unironically, would be excited for that trip.
Yeah, I don't know why I would either, but I would be. I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's like haven't experienced it before. It's like I've always wanted to go to some place that's seems kind of cool because I've never been, but then you get there like, oh, okay, I've had enough of this. I remember as a kid I thought it was exciting to go to Birmingham. I don't know why, but it was, and it wasn't exciting at all, and something I won't ever really want to do again. So anyways, real quick before we because I know we got to get to Brian Marcelo and talk about this great article he wrote about Cal and the basketball team. Neither of y'all answered my trivia question yesterday in the group text, so I'm going to challenge you here on live air. All right, can you name the one Razorback in the past 15 years that has led the SEC in fouls in one single season?
Fouls committed, we're saying?
Yeah, fouls committed. There's one Razorback.
Jordan Walsh?
No. It's a good guess, though, but no.
That is a good guess. That's probably
I'm out. That's all I had.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm trying to think a big man that played a lot.
I was surprised to see this. Jalen Tate.
What?
Jalen Tate.
Oh, there's no way I would have gotten there.
Yeah, I wouldn't have either. That's why I asked it. He had 97 fouls, which led the SEC in 2021. That was a wild stat. So
now that I think about it, most of the big men who have a high foul rate don't play that many minutes. You know what I mean? Like if you have a guy that's racking up, he's only playing 17, 18 minutes. And so I can see how that works. Like Jalen Tate just every game getting 3 or 4 fouls.
Yeah. Could happen that way.
Wow.
Could happen. So, well, I know we have a lot of things that we're going to dive into here and a lot more and have some more fun with it. But Curtis and Andrew, we appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys. Safe travels, Curtis, getting back home and everything. So
Thank you.
yeah,
Yes. Looking
yeah.
forward to being back home.
Yeah, it's going to be
It was
great.
a great
So,
time.
Yep.
Woo Pig tonight. Everybody be ready for the bombastic recap as Arkansas is about to absolutely have birth on UCA tonight. It's going to be great.
That is excellent. Thank you for that visual. Appreciate you. So, but yes,
The Bears are in trouble.
yeah.
Y'all better watch out. You boys from Conway that listen to the show, you're toast tonight. Sorry.
Good to know. So appreciate you guys. But yeah, we got more things that we're going to discuss here on the show. And here's the deal is that there's Razorback football that's going on, but there's a lot of Razorback basketball that still seems to be the topic of conversation for everybody. And one person that knows a little bit about it actually wrote a really great article on CBS Sports dealing with John Calipari and the Razorback basketball team. Is a good friend who it's been a while since we've had him on. And it is our guy, Brandon Marcelo of 24/7 Sports, but also CBS Sports, joining us here. And Brandon, appreciate you joining us, man. How you doing this afternoon?
Doing well, man. How are you, John?
Well, I'm doing pretty good myself, especially considering the fact that basketball is a little bit more relevant, a little bit more fun right now. It wasn't for a while, and then it became that. And I know that you mainly cover college football and everything, but I had a chance to check out what you wrote on CBS Sports dealing with Cal, because I remember we were texting last week, I guess. You're like, hey, I'm going to be covering the basketball game against Mississippi State. I was like, okay, well, something go wrong here? What's Brandon Marcelo doing over there covering basketball? But just your overall thoughts and, what the basis of your article and getting the story behind Cal and the years and what's been going on. Just what went into that, and what was the type of vibe that you got in those interviews of talking with Cal and other people too?
Yeah, we've been thinking about doing something legitimately for like the last couple of months, just on the first year under Cal. And obviously back there in late January, we're like, oh boy, is this a story about the Cal experience just being a complete failure and maybe in its last days as far as just a Hall of Fame coach kind of at the edge of his career. But, and especially considering, there was an article out there from anonymous coaches across the country, including the SEC, that were criticizing John Calipari and saying that the game had passed him by and all this stuff. So it really just kind of put the microscope even more on this story. And so we kind of bumped it down, kept bumping it. And obviously with Arkansas starting to win, it became much more interesting. And adding to that was the fact that Arkansas is obviously shorthanded. They've gone from a 9-man rotation down to 7, and even that 7-man rotation isn't even completely healthy. And so just one of those things where it's like, let's wait till the end of the season, regular season, see where they're at. And what better time than now with them playing potentially for kind of a play-in game against Mississippi State in that season finale in Bud Walton Arena. So I went there and covered it and got to sit down and chat with John Tyson, actually courtside seats at halftime, sat down with him and chatted for a bit about everything that's happened this season and what the future looks like. I thought it was some interesting comments about just how this idea of giving NIL deals to 9 players and that just kind of being your rotation was good in theory, but wasn't necessarily great in practice, because obviously Arkansas dealt with the injuries. They've been shorthanded. And even the chemistry has been kind of slow to develop as a result of all that. And they finally seem to have something going now. But the problem is that they're still shorthanded, and these guys are really in great shape, but you can't keep playing kind of at a half tank of gas, right? And if Arkansas were to get on a roll in the postseason, you wonder if that would be the case, that they just run out of gas, which makes this SEC tournament so interesting. It's like if you win a few games, is that even a good thing? Because you might be wearing yourself out before the NCAA tournament. And so talked to Coach Cal a little bit and John Tyson for quite a bit, and about kind of their plans, recruiting wise going into next year and how they're going to handle NIL and everything. And it was pretty fascinating chatting with them.
So let me ask you this, dealing with, because I think Razorback fans feel like this has just been a roller coaster for years. You'll never even be able to explain to people just how the hype and the expectations coming in and how it took a back seat, but then you beat Michigan, but then the conference play started up and it was rough, but then you go on the road to beat Kentucky. I mean, it's just been all over the place. But you talked about the roster and the job that Cal's doing, sitting there at 8-10, which I know is not going to just wow the entire world of that type of record. But what has been maybe the key of him being able to get the success and get into the NCAA tournament, which it looks like they're at right now? How was he able to do it with a team that started 1-6 in conference play and without doubt is the toughest the SEC has ever been, to now where you're talking about an SEC tournament and NCAA tournament that Arkansas may be a team that nobody really wants to play right now?
Yeah, he's managed to get the pieces all kind of flow together and play together. And I think it was DJ Wagner Saturday mentioned that, sometimes we had a lot of great talent is kind of what they said, but it was hard to kind of everybody to figure out their roles and kind of keep people happy. And then it was almost a blessing in some ways that a couple of guys got injured and the rotation shrank a little bit and they're able to focus and actually work on sets and kind of get a chemistry and groove going. Because remember, all these guys are all playing together for the first time, really. Despite it being a trio of Kentucky transfers, where you're dealing with all these new pieces. So in a way that kind of helped them. I think what's been very impressive with Coach Cal this year from a personal standpoint is that you're dealing with all these injuries. You're also dealing with players who are dealing with injuries as they're playing, including Nelly Davis, whose wrist had been bothering him. And even when he was playing, was obviously affecting his shots. He was able to keep them together. I mean, it's so very easy for a lot of these guys, especially the ones that could go to the NBA, to just check out and go, I'm done with this. I'm going to prepare for my future and everything. But these guys have played very hard. DJ Wagner, I think, has been incredible just in how hard he's been playing throughout this season. And he's gotten them to believe. Also, as just a schematic situation, I've watched a few Arkansas games this year, not all of them, obviously. But I recall I was at a friend's house. We were watching the Auburn game, and the inbound plays were fantastic that Cal was drawing up or preset or whatever, and they were getting baskets on it, really confusing that great Auburn defense on the road. And you just kind of knew that there was still something there. And you saw that fight in the Alabama game where they got down big, but then made it a game late when everybody was leaving the building. And it's just a team that doesn't really ever give up down the stretch. It's just that maybe they don't have enough pieces to be as good as what they could have been this year. But that doesn't discount the fact that Coach Cal has done a pretty great job in figuring out everything with what he has right now. And I think if you put truth serum and Coach Cal right now, he would say, yeah, it was a mistake, only bringing in 9 guys and then kind of bringing out some, ancillary pieces that aren't getting NIL deals. And, John Tyson told me that the idea now is that we're going to get 10 or 11 guys now, probably 11, maybe even more. And they're also going to be helped with the revenue sharing aspect of everything. And, John was telling me that, he thought there was probably like 12 to 14, I think is the number he said, programs that were well set up for this year as far as NIL and everything. And Arkansas was among them. And the roster they built proves that. I mean, they had the number 1 recruiting class, and I think number 4 in the transfer portal rankings. But the problem was they just didn't have the numbers. Now going into this year, this next upcoming season, he thinks there'll probably be between 20 to 30 programs that will be on that level, that elite level, competing for championships because of NIL and also the revenue sharing. And so Arkansas has got to kind of step its game up. And as John Tyson was telling me, this wasn't a one-year plan. They've kind of planned this out over the next 2 to 3 years. But now they've had to change things a little bit where they know they've got to bring in a couple of other pieces there so that it's like a 10 or probably 11 man rotation more so than just counting on 9 guys. And if you have 2 guys go down, oh boy, you're scrapping near the bottom of the barrel.
So I think it's so fascinating when you got a chance to talk with Tyson, because I don't know if you've ever felt this way, but the fact that you're here talking to a major booster and a guy that runs chicken, and you're talking about we got to get this plan in place for getting players in and paying them NIL. I mean, it's just so crazy how it's gone. But just the vibes. I know you mentioned a few things you talked about, but just the vibes and the conversation. He's a big basketball fan, but the dude was the hero of getting Cal to Arkansas. But when you got to sit down with him and talk to him, just how was his approach? And you mentioned the plan and everything. How much is his involvement in the basketball program? Because I just assume dude's out here wheeling dealing. Is it as involved as what people think, or what can you make of that right now?
I think he's pretty involved. He's obviously very knowledgeable when it comes to basketball. He was talking about player rotations with me and comparing it to some situations that some NBA teams specifically are dealing with. And I don't follow the NBA, so I had no idea what he's talking about. He's talking about how Oklahoma City has changed their ways, their philosophy of increasing rotation with a younger team. Golden State also increasing the rotation. And then he used another team like the Knicks, where they've gone kind of the opposite way, and it's really directly negatively affected them. And he says in this day and age, in college basketball and even pro basketball, you got to have 10 or 11 guys that are starter worthy that you can rotate in and out. You can't rely on 9 guys, and especially not 7 or 8 like Arkansas is dealing with right now. As far as like his day-to-day, hands-on things, I'm not certain, but it's very clear to me that he's a guy that Coach Cal leans on. I mean, they're good buddies. We all know that. I mean, John Tyson is as big of a Hog fan as I think you'll find. I was watching him before I sat down with him at halftime, and yeah, you were there. They had that race with the corgis at midcourt, and he was going nuts. He was cheering those pups on and and everything, and leading hog calls and everything on the sideline during the game, high-fiving everybody. I mean, he's just an Arkansas boy at heart that just so happens to be a billionaire. And now that he's got the coach that he can really relate with and talk with, whenever he needs to and pick up the phone, and they got a similar philosophy when it comes to business and how to run a business. And that's what basketball programs, and for that matter, any athletic department, has become now. It's a business where you're dealing with an unofficial salary cap in a lot of ways with the money you have for NIL. And it's very clear to me that, it appears Arkansas appear to put them in a position to where they're probably gonna have to spend more money next year, and they're ready for it. I spoke to Hunter Yurachek, the AD, as well Saturday, and he was telling me that, I didn't hire, Coach Cal to bring him in here and not give him the tools to be successful. When I asked him about the increase in NIL and obviously with revenue sharing. So certainly Arkansas is going to be in a good position moving forward into next year to pick up some of these extra pieces that they're going to need from the portal, but also among high school recruits. John was saying that, at face value at this point, that 10th and 11th guy, they're not going to be, superstar players, but they might be players that develop into superstars. So if you go get a portal player, go get yourself a portal player that will be there for 2 years. And you can convince and say, if you come here, play 2 more years, we'll get you to the NBA. Same with a freshman. If you get a freshman there, say, hey, come here for 2 years, maybe 3 years, and we'll develop you. It's not going to be a one and done player, whether it's a high school recruit or a transfer portal player, when you talk about the 10th and 11th guys they add with that NIL money that they're gathering.
Speaking with Brandon Marcelo of CBS Sports, who wrote a great article dealing with John Calipari and behind the scenes of the basketball program. And I think that's what's fascinating, Brandon, is, Cal obviously shocked the world becoming the next head coach at Arkansas. But knowing that, hey, he was 65 years old when he took the job, and some people felt like his prime is past. He did it at Kentucky, but they wanted him out of there. He seems to have the tools. He seems to have the program. He seems to have still a willingness and a very much of a fire to win at a high level. So, what do you see in the next 5 years with Cal? Not only at Arkansas, but given the SEC and the state of it and how competitive it is, can he be a guy that wins a championship at Arkansas in the next 5 years or goes to a Final Four? Just what do you feel like the big picture is going to be for Cal here over the next few seasons at Arkansas?
Yeah, I think that's all possible. I think it's all on the table because of his pedigree and what he's done in the past, but also just namely, players still win games. Coaches lose them. I've always said that, but especially in basketball, when you're counting on, 9, 10 guys to get you there, it's so much more of a microscope under everything. And every little coaching decision is magnified as a result of that, especially in these close games you're seeing more and more often now in the SEC. I think Arkansas is going to be able to attract the top tier talent like we've seen just in the first year under Coach Cal. As I mentioned, they had a #1 recruiting class and a top 5 transfer class just in his first year when he's putting everything and cobbling everything together late. They're going to have similar recruiting classes, obviously, going into the next year and the year after that. I think the key here, though, is having some consistency. So where you're not turning a roster over every year, because if you look across the SEC, you look across the nation for that matter, but especially in the SEC this year, the best teams in the SEC this year are the most veteran teams. Auburn won the SEC this year because their average roster age is 23 years old. they got a lot of guys that are older, but also guys that have played together for several years, and that chemistry keeps going. They know how each other think. They know where they're going to be on the court. They know who to trust, who not to trust, who's on the court. Arkansas, obviously, you don't have that right now. But you get a few of these guys from this team this year to stick around and then bring along the newcomers that come in, whether they're one-and-done players or even some portal guys, then you got something, right? You got something you can build on and obviously be able to count on when it comes to some veteran leadership, so that Coach Cal is not and his assistants aren't necessarily having to go out there and literally move the chess pieces on the floor at times. I remember watching back in, I think it was January or December. I'm not much of a basketball guy now. I just cover college football, but I watch Arkansas from time to time. And I saw them, Coach Cal coaching, and it just seemed like every moment he was standing up and like almost on the court, having to tell players where to go and exactly what to do. And I'm just like, this is a mess right now, that he's having to do all of this and then working so hard to just get these guys in the right space. And he's not having to do that much anymore. And that's going to be huge going into next year. I mean, just having some guys that stuck around or in the system that can help the other players come around, because right now he's finally able to count on some of these players to do the right thing, but also bring the other players along and coach each other on the floor. Whereas earlier this year, just a few months ago, he wasn't able to do that.
Well, I'm curious because you mentioned you cover college football, and I've made it known. I've went on Feinbaum and said this, and I've always talked about Cal is a celebrity that happens to be a college basketball coach. I mean, when he came and got the job at Arkansas, I remember people asking me, he's like, "Hey, is there a comparison to this in Arkansas history?" I'm like, no. Even the Bobby Petrino hire, which was national news coming from the Atlanta Falcons and everything, was nowhere even close to this. So spending a little bit of time with him, since you're a college football guy and you've talked to so many coaches and covered, is there any comparison that you could make with Cal to a college football coach you covered? Is he Nick Saban like when it comes to the aura and the approach? Is it somebody else? I mean, is there a comparison for somebody like Cal in the college football landscape?
Yeah, I think he's very much like Nick Saban. He's a lot of business, and he's just very regimented when it comes to that. I mean, you're not going to be able to just kind of walk down the hallway and chat with them or whatever. But when you do get to chat with them, he's pretty open and honest with things. And Nick Saban was very much along those lines. It's just that he's got a singular focus on basketball, and I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to go coach that, and then I'm going to go talk to this guy, and I need to be in the office at this moment, and I got to be on the phone at this time. He kind of blocks everything else out. He's got blinders on from that aspect. And I think that's a lot like, Nick Saban. I think it's a lot like a lot of old school coaches, especially in football, that have kind of dealt with this new era. And when you're John, I mean, listen, he's a guy that's been able to bring in all these incredible NBA All-Stars and future NBA superstars, and he's kind of had to build a professional environment anyway. That's his selling point to all these families and these players. And so he treats it as such. So you're not going to see Coach Cal, out having a beer with, a beat writer or someone else, or even doing so with some fans or whatever. He's going to get in and get out and go back to work and kind of do his thing and develop things. And obviously being an active Hall of Famer who's still coaching, how many Hall of Famers do you know out there that's just kind of, still coaching or in the business, just kind of kicking the tires and having fun and playing around a little bit? Those coaches are getting a little bit more rare. But the thing is, like in basketball, I would say this on the other side, a lot more basketball coaches are a little bit more freewheeling and kind of open and just kind of sporadic and willing to kind of do things and just chat with fans. I mean, I was a beat writer at Auburn, and my last season really was that year that Auburn went to the Final Four in 2019. And, Bruce Pearl is as personable as a coach as you'll ever see. And he's a guy that you could call up and talk to almost any time, shoot a text to. Heck, I shot a text to him when they won the SEC a week or two ago, and he texted me back. But not everybody's like that. Everybody's got different personalities, and more people are closed off these days. And, Coach Cal has done things a little bit differently from everybody else. I mean, he's the one who really kind of perfected that one and done model previously. And his whole coaching philosophy has been, I'm going to bring guys in, and I'm going to not just get you to the NBA, but I'm going to prepare you to be a superstar in the NBA, right? And you heard him when he took the Arkansas job that he still has, I don't know what the number was, so many more families that he wants to affect and bring to that level. That's kind of his focus. And I think beyond that is okay, let's go win championships as well. Which, if you're not winning, that's not going to set well with fans. But when you're winning, it's all gravy.
Well, I'm going to ask you this too, Brandon. Just a few more for what you get out of here. Some people, and you've been an astute member of the media for a long time, don't necessarily care for the fact that, Cal doesn't always do his press conferences after games. He doesn't always meet with the media in the middle of the week. Some people say he's not as accessible, and maybe it's just because what you're used to. Because previously with Eric Musselman, he was always there for post games, and he was always there in the midweeks, and you just kind of get used to it. But what are your thoughts as someone who covers teams and whatnot of Cal not always making himself readily available as the head coach post games or even during the week when it comes to press conferences?
If I was a beat reporter, I'd want him at every press conference. I would. So I would get frustrated. I just would. It's, I don't know his assistant coaches very much, Kenny Payne and Chin Coleman and all that. But I mean, before a big game or something like that, or even the SEC tournament, to get an assistant coach out there, not the head coach, the authority figure, that would probably bother me a little bit, especially as someone who's trying to write stories. And also it makes it a little bit maybe unpredictable when you're planning out content as a reporter. Even myself, I went to the Arkansas Mississippi State game, and I was sitting there and even talking to people like, is Cal going to come talk, after the game? Is it possible? If they lose, will he come out and talk? And, not to say my story was hinging on his voice being in there, but it kind of did. I needed his voice in there to give him the opportunity. And I've gone through other channels to try and get Cal off to the side in the middle of the week, but I was told, just show up to the press conference, you'll get a question or two in, get what you need. And luckily for me, he showed up. But yeah, that would bother me as our beat reporter, because I've been in situations previously, and this is stuff no one cares about, but it helps build stories and tell better stories and greater stories. And, look across, all the national media and everything. I can count on one hand how many sit-down interviews Cal has done since he's been at Arkansas. One. And it was with my colleague Dennis Dodd at CBS Sports. And Cal has really backed off from that stuff here the last few years. I think he's been, I can't speak for him, but I think he's been burned by a lot of people in the past. And if you're in this industry long enough, you're going to be burned. And the only way to kind of protect yourself from that happening is just to pull away and not welcome that or interact with that. So I understand why or why not he may choose to do so and do those things. So that doesn't bother me as from a human perspective, but just as a writer, a writer in a lot of ways represent the fans. And we go ask the questions that fans want answered, right? So some of those can be tough. Some of those are fluff questions or whatever. But would you rather get an answer from, the assistant coach every time, or would you rather get it from the head coach all the time? It's just a matter of what you think. But for people to I don't know, you tell me, if he's being openly criticized by other fan bases and things like that, that's a weird thing to be criticizing. I mean, criticize the guy for wins and losses. Don't criticize what his record is and showing up to press conferences.
Yeah, that's how I felt about it. I was like, well, if he's winning, no one really cares about it as much.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I think Cal's great and he's a great orator and all that, but there's also not a whole lot sometimes you get from the press conferences, even when he's there. Yeah. He likes to just, answer his own questions as he would. But I think it's just different for what you're used to.
And it also shows that he trusts his assistants to deliver the message of the program. Nick Saban probably didn't want to talk to the media, but he did it all the time and did not allow his assistants to talk because he didn't want to stray away from his message. He didn't want assistants to be caught in something and say something that doesn't align with what Nick Saban's saying backstage and all of that. So, he trusts his guys to go out there and represent the program the way he wants.
Yeah. Which again, it'd be nice sometimes we had that in football too, but he may be the only coach that's wants his assistants, to do it all instead of him. Cause I don't know many coaches that would do that in any sport, much less college basketball. But, I think it's interesting just, again, what you're used to. I mean, I doubt I'm going to get an invite to the Halloween party for Cal like I did with Muss, but it's, it's a thing that people get used to. And as long as you're winning, I think most people are going to be okay with it. But before we let you get out of here, Brandon, I mean, we got to talk some college football. I'm just going to ask you a very general question and you can just answer how you want. Razorback football spring. What is it? What's the current state? What is the thing about Razorback football in the spring? Because I can't tell you. We talk some football, but when we do, people are like, nah, I'm out. It's just such a weird, interesting time for Razorback football right now.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's a lot like that at a lot of programs, including some blue bloods. And the reason for that is because there's just so much turnover now where you need a full off season and spring football to even know who's on the team and kind of readjust and adjust your expectations. I don't think spring football is as important to fans anymore as far as just the day-to-day. Like, what's the position battle? It's more or less, what are the names? Who do we have here? You got your hardcore fans who are doing so, but not the guys who are going to be there just going, hey, I've got it all figured out. But I think for Arkansas, I think I saw something. I was doing some early research. Arkansas is like in the top, I think, 3 or 4 in the SEC as far as new players this spring. So I need to study the roster. Is it going to be a better Arkansas team this year? Hell if I know. I don't think the coaches know. They're not going to really even have a good idea on this team until they go through spring practices, get some film together, and start figuring out what a depth chart might look like and what they need to work on when they go through player-led orientation of practices this summer. The big thing, though, is that you've got a good spine to this nervous system with Talon Green obviously being back at quarterback. You've got Bobby Petrino there still calling the offense, and you've got Travis Williams still calling the defense. That's key. You kept some consistency when it came to that, right? They're going to have to rebuild a lot on that defense, I think. Obviously, losing Landon Jackson is humongous. So they got to figure out a way to get pressure on the quarterback different ways this year than they have in the past, potentially. I really like both coordinators. I mean, how can you not? Bobby Petrino is Bobby Petrino. He's going to score points. He proved it last year. He took an offense that was just completely in the dumps a year before and reshaped it, changed it, right? Defensively, T. Will is a guy that's going to try to be aggressive and pick his spots. And I think the defense has been pretty good considering the talent he had on his roster with his unit. So I'm going to need to kind of study things up this spring on Arkansas. Reporters were supposed to know all and everything. But the thing is, things are so much different now in the spring because it's like a clean slate. You could throw all these pieces, but you're throwing them in a blender. We don't know how it's going to fit yet. We don't know, it's just not like that. It's not like the NFL where you're bringing in just a few guys, for a few free agents. You're bringing in practically a new roster sometimes. Sometimes you're bringing in entirely new rotation of starters along an offensive line or defensive line. And it's just very, very difficult to predict. So I'm interested to maybe walk over there and drive over there and see a couple of these practices. And, obviously we're kind of getting to the point where a lot of schools are finally starting spring practices. And that's when I start getting information from a lot of coaches across the country about what's your team look like? What's this guy look like? Is this guy not quite working out the way you thought? So a lot of things to figure out here over the next month or two.
All I know is that I'm sure no one's going to be over dramatic and think too much of the smallest of things in spring. As soon as Talon Green throws a pick, I'm sure people are going to be completely normal and fine by it. I mean,
well, listen, I always go back to I've covered teams as a beat writer where we always try to look into the spring game a lot. And if I recall, I was at Mississippi State covering Mississippi State, but what that year of the motorcycle thing, didn't Arkansas go score 63 points in their spring game? It's 63-0 or something like that. Everybody's like, oh, this is going to be an SEC championship contending team. Then the motorcycle incident happens. The talent doesn't change, but then nothing came together that year with John L. Smith leading the way and, telling everybody to smile. So there's just no way to read into spring games. Same thing happened at previous programs I've covered. And it was obviously much different then. You knew that the talent that was there on the field was much of the same from the previous year and was going to be the same that going into the August. Now it's half the roster's new going into spring. And then when spring practices end, you're adding more pieces from the transfer portal. So it frustrates the hell out of the coaches. I'll tell you that much, because they feel like they're running on a treadmill underwater. They just can't get the full speed. They can never quite figure it out. And they don't figure it out until the very end of fall camp in August.
Yeah, well, it's just for our sake here at Inside Arkansas, let's just hope the basketball team goes pretty far in spring and does really well.
Hey, baseball looks good.
Yeah, they got baseball. Yeah, baseball's good and everything. So, but most with baseball, it's a whole nother animal where their fans are kind of don't care till wake me up at postseason, because they've had great seasons the past 2 years, but nothing to show for it postseason. So it's just how Razorback fans are right now. But either way, folks, be sure to check out Brandon's great article on CBS Sports talking about behind the scenes with John Calipari. and what goes on in this season and also the future. You got to sit down with John Tyson. Really good stuff. And Brandon, we always appreciate you joining us. Good talking with you, man. Enjoy the spring practice, but enjoy some basketball. Enjoy a great sports season and the weather getting nicer here in Arkansas, man. And we'll be sure to catch up with you later down the road.
All right. Thanks, John. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, appreciate you. Again, that was our guy, Brandon Marcelo of CBS Sports, joining us, as well as 24/7 Sports. Great stuff. And folks, again, check out his article. It's really fascinating. I love the behind the scenes. That's why I love the Vice articles that have come out, or the Vice documentary that's come out, and getting those behind the scenes, because it's unfiltered, it's uncensored. It just gives you all the raw stuff. So be sure to check it out, folks. And that'll do it for us here at Inside Arkansas. Appreciate everybody watching in, listening in here on Inside Arkansas Live. Be sure to subscribe to us here on Inside Arkansas. You can also check out all of our podcasts wherever podcasts are found, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, all the places that audio podcasts are found. You can do it for the Bombastic Podcast, the Pod at the Palace, as well as Inside Arkansas Live. And you can also check out our social media at Inside Arkansas. You can check out our website, InsideArkansas.com, for all the latest, great, up-to-date information. You can also check out our great merch that we have for sale at InsideArkansas.myshopify.com. We got a lot going on here, but for Andrew Ellis and Curtis Wilkerson and Brandon Marcel, I'm John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel tomorrow at noon for the Inside Arkansas watch along for Arkansas, South Carolina. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and we'll see you then.